Hello. It's been a little bit, so we're going to do a pick a card. Pick a reflection. Okay. So, what these are... I kind of need a better light, but this is what it is right now. Pick 1, pick 2, and pick 3. Pick 1 is this... I think that says 2 by 2. Right, it's a little Noah's Ark pin. I actually got this to represent the twin flame journey. I literally picked this up like years ago, so I've had it a while. This is something newer I've had. It's the smallest egg that I have. I think that's a carnelian egg. And this is a little sculpture I made. You can't really see, but that's Pluto and Venus written on those beads at the top there. So this is my Pluto-Venus sculpture, which is a conjunction that is in my birth chart. But you may be attracted to that one. Okay. So pause if you need more time to choose. Use your own intuition to decide if one or more of these has a message for you. And let's get into it with pick number 1. Let's see, pick number 1. I'm looking over here to just like choose which cards I'm going to use. I haven't even thought that far ahead. I'm going to grab a tarot deck and I'm going to grab an advice deck. And I'm going to grab the good old oracle bucket. Okay. Most helpful information for pick 1 to reflect on at this time. Most helpful information for pick 1 to reflect on at this time. I think I'll get like a few from here, then maybe get some tarot, and then maybe some more of these, and then advice. So and we got Frigg. So Frigg is the wife of, I think she's the wife of Odin or Thor. Odin. Frigg is the wife of Odin. Okay. So she's a goddess of beauty and marriage. So this can signify commitments, if it doesn't pertain to marriage exactly. Faith. Oh. Sagittarius. Looking at things from a higher view is definitely a theme here so far when it pertains to marriage or commitment. Hermit. You know, the hermit is the energy where we take ourselves back from the hustle bustle of everyday responsibilities. Not to neglect our responsibilities, but to reflect on our inner world and come to terms with whatever is going on. So like if there's fears and worries that are repetitive, Hermit is the space where we go to resolve all that. Hermit takes a step back and kind of stays within and knows that the answers are within and is really looking to apply wisdom when they're ready to emerge. We've got document it. And Metis. And Metis is about wisdom. It's the first wife of Zeus. So now we've got like, marriage is a topic. We've got a first wife of Zeus. Zeus had more than one wife. And Metis was one that, Zeus wasn't a trusting kind of guy, like not really looking to others to rely on. But Metis, he was given advice by Metis, and she actually gave him such advice that he was able to win some certain war that he was in. Some kind of situation he prevailed when he took into consideration her wisdom. So that's interesting, because we've got this hermit who takes their own wisdom into consideration, but now this is talking about, like, maybe you have a partner, or there's a commitment here that provides you some sort of wisdom that is going to be very helpful for you at this time. I'm not sure where documented is coming in yet, but that might be something specifically relevant to your situation that you understand when I say it. When we've got Sagittarius and faith, Sagittarius is the higher mindedness, using our awareness of the fact that, we don't have to be at war. We are all connected, that there is a win-win-win for all, that that faith is actually much more powerful than strategy, than coercion, than manipulation. Faith is like trusting in the divine. Sagittarius is knowing the divine. Faith is trusting in the divine. Marriage is supposed to be this sacred thing. Of course, we've got Metis here, whereas Zeus wasn't necessarily treating her as a sacred partner. Let's get some tarot and see what else. I want to ask, who are you in this situation? Who are you being in this situation? And when I say who are you being, it's because we're trying to look at the energy of you within the context of what this message is, okay? Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles can be about some scarcity feeling, like holding on to your assets. Scared to lose, scared to spend anything. Like feeling like you don't have enough, feeling insecure in the financial realm. The Two of Swords is in reverse, so if there was some sort of situation where you were having to choose, maybe you've come out of that choice, you've made the choice, or maybe you don't even realize you have a choice. It could be any of those, so let's find out more. Probably gonna have to pause and blow my nose because I started juicing yesterday, and it has got my body like shedding and detoxing super fast, and blowing my nose is part of that. Seven of Wands in reverse. Not being able to picture the future that's there for you. Not feeling supported in the vision that you have. Actually, before I get some more from the Oracle bucket to clarify, I am going to get an advice card, so I know kind of what the flavor of Spirit's view is on this. Feel joy in all you do. So there's something here that could be more fun. Possess self-confidence. You know what I'm brought to and reminded of? So I was in this relationship, and because of my, hold on, I gotta pause and blow my nose. Okay. So I was in this relationship, and because of my state of mind, the way that I experienced that relationship was kind of like hell. Was really unpleasant. But to be honest, I've looked at and reflected on a lot or all of that relationship that I possibly can. And I don't have to anymore. This was years ago. But of the many things that I realized about my functioning in that relationship and how that relationship functioned or didn't function, one thing I did realize was, had I not been in survival mode, had I not been full-on codependent, had I not been panicked all the moments of the time that I spent with this person, I was in this like hyper-vigilant state. Yes, because of his behavior, but also because of my state as a result of how I grew up and all that stuff. Had I not been in that, I actually could have enjoyed some of the things that we did. Had I not been just worried about, is he going to leave me? Is he in this for the long haul? Why does it always feel like he's lying? Like, had I not been like worrying about all that, right? I was very insecure, and I didn't know that I could handle it even if we parted ways. I felt sort of like a victim in life. I didn't yet fully embrace the growth mindset for myself. I didn't yet fully embrace that I could handle things and was resilient. And because of that, because of my lack of self-confidence, even the things that we did that were fun, I really didn't enjoy. So that relationship, where yes, it wasn't the healthiest thing, but he wasn't physically beating me or anything. Like if it wasn't for my emotional turmoil, we did a lot of fun things. We went to concerts. We went out to eat. We did a lot of like boondocking, traveling here and there, day trips, and things that I really enjoy. Seeing sights, going for drives, just meeting people out, dancing, karaoke. Those are all things that I could have enjoyed had I not been in the state I was in. So that kind of essence came to me, and that feeling of like, whatever situation you're in, if you have confidence, you can feel the joy in whatever it is. And you can kind of surrender into faith, this is saying. And I'm going to have to clarify some more things here. Can we clarify the Seven of Wands in reverse, please? So even if you have this vision and you don't feel really supported for it, if you appreciate your talent, if you see your vision, if you understand how important it is to you and how passionate you feel about it and how much you want to create your vision, as long as you do, you can have confidence in that and you can feel joy in that. And you don't need other people to really see it or believe in you or any of that, really, Why is the Two of Swords here in reverse? Worry is a wasted emotion. So, it's saying this. I want to get more to clarify that. Tell me, clarify the Two of Swords in reverse. It's like when you look at this vision for what you're about to create. It doesn't behoove you to worry about the comparison between what you're doing and what others are doing, whether or not others are going to support you. whether or not it'll be liked by others, things like that. Even if you are creating it for others to consume, it's best to fall to that faith, fall to that confidence, because when you create something, to create is to come up from the roots, the depths, and it's built on a solid foundation of your authenticity. And if it isn't, it will likely crumble at some point. If you're building something on a facade or for the purpose of it being a facade, that's something that's not secure and not everlasting. That is something that will eventually crumble, or could crumble. Say you were doing something because you wanted the admiration of others. Well, how are you going to feel as soon as they forget about it, or they stop admiring it, or it loses, you don't get the likes or whatever when you post it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to invest in something that relies on something that someone could take away just like that. Tell me why. I'll go to this bucket. Why is the Four of Pentacles here? Maybe you feel like you don't have enough money to create this. Are you committed to doing it? That's what I want to ask. Maybe you don't feel like you're creative enough. You feel like there's no one to trust. Like, you have this great idea. You might want to collaborate with some people, but you wouldn't even know who to trust to start, because no one's really showing you the support that you'd want. No one's even showing you the interest that would be required. No one would be as devoted to it as you, something like that. So you're kind of like holding it close to your chest, keeping it all in, and kind of maybe working on it in silence. Interesting. Okay. Why is document it here? Healing victimization. Deception. So if there's some victimization and deception, it's saying to document it. Collect all the parts to your case. Is this a case where you're going to have to present information and you don't have a lot of support and no one believes your story? That could be. And it's like this big, serious, heavy thing. And this is saying, like, lighten up, this is just something this is just a mountain you're climbing, Have you ever climbed a mountain? Because you don't, like, dread every step. You just enjoy the process of doing it. And so maybe you're needing to learn a lot of things through this process of whatever you're preparing for. Which for some reason, a lot of people are not supportive, and a lot of people could betray you, or you just feel that way. Specific person, yeah. It does have to do with a specific person. And you are unsure. Maybe you don't have proof, and maybe as you go to write it, you'll see things from a different perspective. Write a letter that you don't send. Definitely, for sure, write a letter that you don't send. Why is Frig here? When you write these letters that you don't send, you get to see yourself on paper, right? Or on some text that you're about to delete. And once you kind of get it out, once you have to formulate it in a way that gets it out, you start to see that different view that you actually are looking to benefit from. Your self-expression is going to help this situation very much. And you don't have a place to express it outwardly or with someone necessarily. It's possible, so I'm still looking. But like so far in the reading, that's what I see. So a letter that you don't send. I asked, why is Frigg here? We got new timeline and Cancer. Why is Frigg here? You're writing a new story. You're changing a pattern. You've been... Okay, so this thing, the vision you have puts you in a totally different timeline. It gets you out of this pattern that you've been in. Forgive yourself, it says. Oh, yeah, committed to something. You know, it could be a lot of people around you that aren't actually supportive, that aren't actually in the space where they're able to consider your needs and wants, and they might need a lot from you, and you might be the giver in this situation, and then nobody's there for you, and maybe you're strong enough, and maybe you've been doing it a while, and it doesn't mean that that's the right place for you to continue on if you've learned all that you could learn from that situation. You know, you're gaining a bigger picture view now. You've kind of honed all the talents. You've noticed all these talents and skills that you have by being in the situation you're in. In this new timeline, people care about you. You know what I mean? There is care, there is love, there is nurture, there is warmth, there is love, mother's love, kind of unconditional love, I want to say. So what is important to you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And what is important to you? Here's another thing that you can write down if you are so inclined. But knowing what's important to you makes it easier to make these decisions, right? Because God, you didn't come to earth to live for everybody else. Now, I understand that there's a certain level of sacrifice that can happen when we're living a life on earth. But is that your priority now? Is that your priority ongoing? Are you really serving people when you enable them to stay in a victimized state? To stay in a state where they're deceiving themselves? Or to deceive yourself into thinking that your value is based on how much they value you for what you do for them? You know? Yeah. So this is actually, it says reparent and melancholia. So this is a sad process, a grieving process. Even though you've been encouraged to feel joy in all you do, you're also being recognized that this is a difficult situation that likely you were in because of the way that your energy body imprinted as a result of the home you grew up in. And that's what you're finding as you're in this hermit phase. And if you haven't been in a hermit stage or phase, you're being welcomed to it, right? Like withdraw, kind of come within yourself and reorganize and figure out and get to know yourself and accept all the things about yourself. And in doing all that, there might be some shedding, there might be some tears and some sadness and some grief and some endings. And that's okay. You know, that's, you know, another thing apart of, as an example of that relationship that I referenced before, you know, had I understood the idea and the concept that some relationships are just for a time, not for all time. I didn't know that. I swear to you that every single time I ever had a boyfriend in life, every time, it was always because I thought this is the one. I never ever wanted to just date someone. I never ever wanted to be casual. I never wanted to have a one-night stand. All of that was not my cup of tea. So even if the other was perpetuating was approaching the situation with that mindset. I didn't know it because my rose-colored glasses wouldn't let me see that. And my mindset was always, I'm in it to win it. So this, idea that relationships are sometimes for a time being, and sometimes we are ending up being surrounded by people who supported the older version of ourselves, and now we're ready to grow. And it's a really sad transition, and I think anyone who's been on a spiritual journey knows about that happening. But it's like, and it doesn't mean that you don't want the best for these people. It doesn't mean that you hate these people. It doesn't mean that you would never talk to them anymore or anything like that. It just means that you change the position you're in their lives. You let yourself in the equation and matter for what you invest your time and energy in. I'm reminded as I say that of the time in my life. There have been a lot of transitions in my life. I was just trying to fix my bun because I realized I look like, I don't know, weird. Whatever. I'm not that worried about it. So, but there was been times in my life where I've gone through these transitions, right? But one earlier on, way before I really even knew I was on a spiritual journey, was I used to be the yes man. Basically, if anyone needed anything and they would ask me, I was going to do it. This included babysitting. This included moving. This included giving them a ride. This included whatever. Giving whatever I had. If somebody wanted what I had, I was giving. And most of the way that was utilized was for babysitting. I've done a lot of babysitting in my life. Not that it was terrible. I love children. I love my nieces and nephews, and I'm so glad, and I wouldn't trade the time that I had with all of them because I love them so much, and I love that I got to bond with them, because, a lot of them I babysat every day for, a year or whatever at different, So it was lovely to be that for them, but there was a time where I had to start saying no. And it was really hard, and it was scary. And you know what happened? People stopped asking me. They just stopped asking. And now, barely anyone asks me. Luckily my children will, but, only 2 of my children actually ever need anything, and it's rare. And I'm glad that they will call me for that, But that seems more reasonable, right? Than everybody kind of looking to Julie for what she can offer, and Julie never ever considering what she might want or need or have to do that would be important, for her life other than serving others. So I don't know why I went into such detail about that. It felt really indulgent in this moment. So maybe there's something there where you feel guilty for indulging in what seems to be more self-serving for you, right? Maybe you've been taught as a child that it's selfish to only focus on yourself and selfish to only think about yourself, and that when you look around and you see people suffering or they need things and you feel an obligation to give to them. And it's a beautiful thing to have a wonderful giving heart. But there is a time where you pull back. And so what I will say is even though people aren't asking me these days, I'm still a very giving person, and I still find ways to give. So I had to pull back first and get myself right, sort all my energy, make sure I was loving myself through any difficult stuff left over from my childhood, and that I was set up in my operating system to continuously do so as it came up into my awareness. And then I could be the giving person again, right? So now, whatever it is, it's a lot of random acts of kindness. It's a lot of just going the extra mile or whatever, whether it be for a client or my landlord or, whatever it is. If there's something that I can do that comes from my overflow, and it doesn't take from me in a way that will put me out into suffering or something. I try to do that. And if you've been watching my videos, you might remember a time where I talked about kind of overextending myself about a month ago, where I got run down. And, that's because I do still find myself a giving person, and it has been a thing of continuously coming back to that place where I go, okay, well, even if everyone needs something all at once, I'm going to have to figure out a better way to manage that particular situation. Because you don't notice that if it's like once in a while, here and there. Okay. Forgive yourself is coming up here. So that, kind of is the advice for those parts of yourself that might feel like it's a selfish thing or feel guilty for taking time for yourself now. Honor how you feel in that. Honor what part of you feels a thing about that, and be present with that part of yourself, and tell that part of yourself that you will be with that part of yourself even though they feel that way. Even though you feel that way, that you accept that feeling, and that feeling can be here if it wants. And you're the one who loves yourself even though that feeling is here. And this is the preface to forgiving self. And it's like, it's okay. It's okay that sometimes I have to put myself ahead of somebody else who's used to me sacrificing for them, and who might get mad at me even. Who might lash out. Who might not understand. Who might make a fit. Who might even threaten to leave my life. But let's face it, you're not going to attract people into your life that support you until you start supporting yourself. Okay. Well, that's just information to reflect on. Set your intentions, the last piece of advice. Set your intentions. So, maybe something like, and you do your own, but here's an example of an intention I might set in this kind of situation. Thank you, God, for guiding me through navigating this in a way that is in the highest good of all. My intention is to make sure that I am putting an effort towards and investing in what equates to the win-win-win. I win, you win, we all win. We do have to let people grow up and realize that they have legs. Here's another reference to that relationship I was in. Because I depended on him for so much, in that not a lot monetarily, not a lot physically, but in my mind, it was just the idea that he was there made me feel like I had a safety blanket. Because if something bad happened, I could call him. Well, let me tell you, I really couldn't. I mostly took care of my own stuff. But it was my mindset that didn't know that until he was gone. And I was still taking care of it on my own. And then I was just like, oh, I guess I could do it. I guess I've been doing it all along. And then I shifted my mindset to realize I don't need to depend on somebody else to just be there as a backup plan for me, in case something goes wrong and I need a rescuer. Actually, I can rescue myself. Actually, it feels pretty good when I do. Actually, thank you for making sure I have the opportunity to fend for myself and be independent and learn what it is to rise up from a challenge at the end of a day. That's a day that feels good. When I overcame a challenge, when I handled it on my own, when I went the extra step for myself, those days feel so good. Those days feel real good. And knowing that I didn't do it to the detriment of anyone else. I cried earlier today in my life coach session because I was remembering how even before that relationship, I used to depend on my brother in that way. It was my brother I would call for everything. And I cried earlier recalling that because I just still felt bad. I felt guilty about having put him in that position. He's my baby brother. I don't want to put pressure on him. It's not his responsibility to take care of me. It was just how I learned to be from watching my mother be that way. And I'm so glad. I'm so fucking glad that someone gave me the opportunity to fend for my friggin' self and realize that I am not a victim and that I can do it. I am so glad. You know? Thank you. So you never know. They might thank you someday. It might take a while. All right. Remember, it's just information to reflect on. Only take what is helpful to you and leave the rest. Thank you for participating. I picked 2. You chose the carnelian egg. This is your reading. What is the most helpful information for pick 2 to reflect on at this time? I've got some tarot cards, I've got the oracle bucket, and I've got some advice cards. So first card out is the Fool. And then the 7 of Pentacles. Oh, a pioneer, huh? Does anyone even know about what you're doing? The Page of Swords. Page of Swords. And the 3 of Wands. Interesting. This kind of feels like a progression from pick 1. Like the next step after pick 1 would be this, which is like pioneering, setting out on a journey of bringing forth an idea that you have, that you feel very passionate about, that you feel very much inclined to, driven towards, focused on, have built the roots for, have a foundation for, but you don't know the outcome. You know that there's a lot of variables, but you're alone in every single one of these cards. And you're setting out on this journey. Okay. Tell us more. This is beautiful. I just got a whiff of something and it smelled really good, like flowers. I mean, I have flowers over there, but I don't usually smell them. Maybe it's because of this detox that my juice kind of put me into. My airways are like clearing. You have options, cellular healing. Oh, that's interesting, right? Because I just mentioned my juice. Now I started juicing, and so what happens when you start juicing, right? You're feeding yourself organic, fresh greens and produce, freshly juiced. So it's just like life force. You're drinking it. And it's like medicine for your body. And your body starts to like shed any inflammation and like mucus, right? Depends on how much of that stuff you have in your body, of course, at the time you start. But I have it. And based on the diet that I had been eating. And this is like saying cellular healing. And I feel like you setting out on this journey that you're on is such a healthy, healing thing. That some of the old habits, some of the ways that you even used your body, some of the rhythms you were in, some of the habits, that's not the word I'm looking for, but some of the things that you're doing every day, I don't know, send me the word if you know what I'm talking about. You're kind of gonna like detox from anything that's just not serving you anymore, right? Like, I don't know. This is just an example. I'm using a corny example on purpose because I don't have like your specific example, but like this could be it, right? Too. Say every morning on your way to work, you're in the habit of going to get a coffee and a donut, right? And it's like you're now living this like life with purpose, and all your focus is on it, and it's so on path. It's so who you are. You're so invested in it that you all of a sudden just get like inspired to drop the donut from your order. Now you're just getting coffee. You know, it's like that. It's like you may even just start to notice different things kind of fall away, and like just a restructuring of your daily habits. Also, this is saying you have options. So two things that came out when I said that were like, one, like don't get lost in the analysis of the ways you can do it, but also like that means if you come to a roadblock, there's probably another way around it, so you can keep that kind of bigger picture view, that growth mindset about it. You're a pioneer. There's no footsteps ahead of you. You're free to do this the way you want to do it. We got hometown, Vesta, which is what you can devote yourself to, and reconnect with self. It's like you are the one who's leading you. I wonder if you're devoted to your hometown. We will get clarification on that. It's like when you make these decisions, every time you're faced with a decision, like you're an option, right? Reconnect with yourself. Make sure you're making the decision not from that logical, rational, what's come before, but from that intuitive prompt, right? That genius insight that comes through the ether, that comes from your highest self. Connect with that part of you. Let that part of you continue to lead you through this. Declutter. Get rid of any of the stuff that you no longer need. It's going to be easier and easier to do that as you go, because you're going to start to see like, oh, this stuff feels kind of heavy now. I don't really need it, you know? Follow those passions, right? Like you're going to remain passionate about this. Make sure you're considering everything you do as the win-win-win, meaning like this foundation you built it on something solid. You built it on the premise of the win-win-win, right? Like nobody's got to lose out for you to have this thing happen. Make sure you continue on with that. We got pessimist, movement, and Pisces. All right. Let me ask, why is pessimist here? Express your feelings. Okay. So, as you go forward, maybe these doubting parts of you come up to your awareness, right? And it's like, perhaps you just need to listen to that part of you. Perhaps you need to acknowledge that there's a part of you that's not quite on board and having faith and like is just a bit like doubtful, and perhaps address the fear of that part of you, right? Like today, okay, well here's this was brought to my awareness again today. Here's a technique that I used to use to get myself over fear. And it was like, imagine the worst and then imagine how I would deal with it. don't put too much, like, don't try to manifest the worst, but just, like, imagine what the worst would be and how I would deal with that. And then let it go. And it's like, once I knew I could at least live through the worst, then, it's like, all right, I got my own back. Like, the worst for me in this case, my examples used to be, like, I would fear being homeless. I was homeless before in my life, and it's not very fun, and, like, so there would be this fear, like, that would come up. Not lately, not anymore, but it used to be, like, oh my gosh, what if this happened, what if I became homeless, and then I just went, you know what, if I became homeless, and I had to live under a bridge, I could do it. I could survive. I could build myself back up again. I could figure it out. And once I got to that point within myself, I was like, oh, I didn't even have to entertain that worry anymore. You know what I mean? It's like just going to that extreme allowed me to kind of pop back into the other place where I wasn't being nagged by that extreme anymore through worry, through constant worry. It like balanced out the energy of it, So there may be like something where you need to like have a little conversation with yourself about that, the part of you that's being a pessimist. Why is movement here? Are you going back to your hometown? Trust yourself. I want to say, even if you had to move back in with your mother, trust yourself. It's okay. Like, trust yourself. It's okay. Yeah, I just got that. Like, moving in with mom is not the end of the world. You know what else? This is interesting. So when I have moved back in with my mother. This one time she told me that she was going to let me take over her property. So I moved back in to do so. Then she reneged. Should have known. It really effed me over at the time because blah, blah, blah. I won't go into it. But what I realized was that was divinely orchestrated by my spirit guides, right? The fact that I would go back into my mom's home. She didn't move out like she was supposed to. So we were both there. And being in her home, at home, activated in me all kinds of triggers that I didn't know were there, that I wouldn't have known were there had I not been in my mom's presence again. Here's an example of one. Entitlement. So, being back in mom's house, even though I hadn't suffered from depression for a very long time before this, I went into a depression. And I believe there were like 3 days where I could not get out of bed. I wasn't feeding myself. I mean, it was that low energy, right? And my mom went to work one day. Now, she had not asked me how I was or checked on me or nothing. Which is pretty typical for my mom and me. Like, she doesn't call me. Even when I was a teenager in her house, she never cared if the only thing that she called me for was to do the dishes. I could be up in the bedroom, in my own bedroom, like slitting my wrists, and she'd be like yelling up for me to come and do the dishes. So that's just how it was. She's one of 11 children. She runs the household like it's a business, like, do your job. And this particular day, 3rd day of my depression, being in bed, and she went to work and it had snowed, maybe like 3 or 4 inches. And when she got home, she yelled at me. Now, I'm a full-grown adult at this point. She yelled at me because I didn't shovel the walkway for her before she got home. And I thought, I'm like in bed, can't even get up to get a drink. You haven't gave a F about me, my condition, what I'm feeling or going through. But you expect me to pull myself out of that state and shovel the walk for you. That seems very entitled. You are entitled, what, for me to jump for you, for me to be your slave, because I'm your kid, because I should respect you, because I live in this house? Like what? You know? It like, I was just like, whoa, man. And I really had to dissect that, and that's how I got to the understanding that that was an entitlement wound. And she carried it, and so I looked for, and I was in the habit of using the mirrors, the 7 mirrors, so I knew whatever I see in someone else, I gotta look for in me. And I did find it in a different version. I wasn't doing it the same way, but there was definitely places where I felt entitled in my life at that time. So my point about this is, like, say you go back to mom's house, or, you know, your family home, or even just your hometown, and you get activated by things that you wouldn't have been activated by. It's for the purpose of healing. Going home to mom's house as an adult is spirit giving you a roadmap to your healing, because mom is going to poke that shit in you. Mom is going to make sure every little boo-boo you have, the scab is picked. So that you can acknowledge, validate how you feel, accept how you feel, accept that this is the reality. Like my reality was, my mom is not in a space to give a fuck about how I feel. She's in a state of expecting the world to answer to her needs. She does not give any care about my needs because she's not able. Whatever state she's in does not allow her to look outside to see that other people have needs too. Okay, that's the reality. How does that make me feel? You know, cry it out if I could, right? Just be present with the part of me that feels a thing about that. Anger, sadness, you know, those are the main ones. So feel those things, and then when mom does that again, you know, I can calmly state my issue. And then I'm actually not even depressed anymore because I dealt with the issue. You know what I mean? Like, being in mom's house or dad's house or whatever it may be, being back home, just in your hometown, even just passing by my high school would activate me sometimes. And I actually went back to my high school in my mind in a soul retrieval meditation, and collected like over 100 versions of myself from the hallways of my high school that were just like sad, misunderstood, walking the halls silently, teenage versions of myself that I welcomed in to join me. So it's kind of like doing soul retrieval for you when you have to go back to these situations, and spirit will absolutely do that for us. So it's actually a beautiful, wonderful thing, and it sounds like where you're going, those are like baggages that I was carrying up until that point when I realized them and could release them, right? Or integrate them. So you don't even realize you're carrying all this heavy baggage until you're trying to go forward on your plan, and you feel so passionate about it and you want to do it, but like all these fears come up, or these things it's like too heavy, or like, you know, these are the things that you're going to shed now. You're going to see them a lot more clearly because they're going to feel like, I just want to do I just want to do my thing. And like whatever's in the way of that, even if it's mom yelling to you to come do the chores and you're working on this project, and it's going to change the course of history for humanity, but mom does not care. You know, if your mom cares, great. I'm not saying that your mom doesn't care. And I'm actually not even saying that my mom doesn't care. My mom cares in her own way. You know what I mean? To the capacity she's able to care for herself, she can care for others. So that's pretty much how it works. Okay. So I want to say, like, anytime we kind of have to go backwards, right, to things like that, it's not something to be ashamed about. And if there is shame, that's another thing to process. Shame is not going to kill us. Shame is like the lowest vibration, so it's really hard to sit with our shame, and we get afraid of feeling it, and Shame has been used as a weapon against us on the playground and by our parents sometimes. And to process all my shame, what I did, first of all, you got to promise yourself you're not going to hurt yourself or anyone else when you're feeling it. But I did mine in the bathtub, not in Mom's house. I had luckily had my own house at the time I processed shame. And I would get in the bathtub every day. I think it was for a month or more. And I'm talking like a few hours a day. With Epsom salts, crystals, and I would just keep running the water hot to keep refreshing so I could stay there in there long enough and just think of all the things that I could feel shame about and let myself cry it out and be the one who would be present with me even though I did that shameful thing. Now, you can't shame me. You know, shame is, if there's shame in here, I would be surprised. But if it did come up, I would just deal with it. But like, it would be very hard for someone to shame me at this point because I've spent a lot of time dealing with my shame. And I'm not saying I've never done anything that, you know, people didn't shame me for. Or that, you know, there's lots of things in my life that I've done that some people, if they believed in shame, would deem shameful. But I don't believe in shame. Shame is a lower density hell realm vibration that I don't have to sit in. Just like God loves me no matter what, okay? So I'm not going to go by these human-made rules of morality when God loves me no matter what. God will let me redeem myself no matter what, you know? I'm only punished by those things as I continue to do them, those shameful things. We're punished by the shameful thing, not because of it. So all of that things that are going on around you right now are lending to this deep, deep transformation. So all the subconscious stuff that kept you from doing this sooner, frankly. Not that you've missed the boat or you're late to the party or anything like that, but like the things that were holding your old ways of being in place are now kind of still being uprooted as you go towards this, right? Okay, I'm going to get one of these and then I'll clarify some more. Release relationships that you've outgrown. I crossed out toxic in that card because I don't like calling things toxic or people toxic specifically. You know, we just outgrow each other. We just grow in different directions. People who are toxic, not all of them even know. You know, they don't even know. They're just ignorant. That's all. But this is definitely saying, yeah, you're going to let some people go. Based on what you're learning about yourself, based on giving yourself justice. And especially if there are people who are like pessimistic about what you're doing. Make each day count. So even if it's slow and steady wins the race, that is a way to win the race. That's the most secure, beautiful way to win the race. That's the sure way to win the race. Make each day count. So a little bit each day. You don't have to take it all on at once. Tell me why Vesta is here. I think that you're devoted to your freedom. Interesting. We got Wrath, Amor, Taurus, and Transit. Okay. I want to clarify. Someone's not going to like that you're devoting yourself in this way, right? Someone that you're eventually going to have to part ways with. But they might put up a little stink about it, right? But you have to remember what's in the highest good of all. This was a hidden enemy. you know? Someone who only supports you when you're doing what you do for them. And then when you have a want or, you know, for your own life, then they turn on you. You got to go with what's in the highest good of all. And it's in the highest good of all that you proceed on your project and that they get a reality check. So it's difficult, but this is, it's the loving thing to do for yourself and them, to break the false reality that's been supported by these roles that you are keeping up that are no longer you. You're not that anymore. You're an inspired being working towards a vision that you have and a passion that you have. This might be a friend that is this person that I'm talking about. Oh, I see. Actually, there may be a friend for you to come back together with, a reunion with a companion. So based on the shifting the energy in this way, there may be people from your hometown or, you know, that you're revisiting from before. And now this could go either two ways. Maybe because you now align with this person and you're going to be living a life that is compatible, or maybe because they're going to poke something in you just the way mom does, you know. It could be either way. It could be different for different people. We could ask, but at first I want to ask about, all right, let's ask, what is this reunion about? It's for karma, but the karma is due to you now, and some karma is the payoff for the hard work you've done. It's love. It's care. It's the nurturing that you've wanted. And this person has resources to share with you, whether it be their knowledge or wisdom, or maybe a place to live, like, you know, if you're going to get out of mom's eventually, or if that's even the case for you, you know. Yeah. Okay, so why is hometown here? So when you have fears, like now this is just an example, and I know I'm kind of beating the drum of this example, but, you know, if there are fears that come up about, oh, it's shameful that I had to move back in with mom or something like that, right? Listen to those fears. Like, you know, those are the emotions that need your love. You need to love the part of you who feels those things. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose. I also got an ending. Listen to fear. I'm clarifying hometown. I got listen to fear and an ending. And now I want to ask, why is an ending here? Yeah, you may be leaving that hometown to relocate to some place where there's some people that are more in line with you, your soul family. Because it's time. And it might take a little effort for you to do so. Like, say, let me ask what the effort's about. It's a comfort zone. You got to leave your comfort zone. You've learned everything you can learn. You know, if you stayed there at this point, you're doing the same thing you've always done, and because it's comfortable, you're probably inclined to keep doing it. It's like, it's safe, right? You know, I can relate to this because I think it's posed to me a lot to travel, and I kind of go to that place of, I kind of like knowing that I'm secure in my place to live and stuff. But I do understand that I'm being pushed in that direction and have been, you know, so I get it, right? It's like, I know I'm in a comfort zone, and this is what it's saying. It's like, it's easy to stay where you are, but you are a growth-oriented soul who's got a vision, and this vision might take you places. So you might want to be open to it. All right, is there anything else that I want to clarify here? I think you're gonna ask for the outcome, and it's the Hermit and the Seven of Cups in reverse. So I think you're gonna kind of keep it to yourself, maybe not even tell a lot of people what you're doing, but you will be focused on one thing that you're doing. Even though you have all these options, you're gonna pick one. And gosh, I just lost. I had a thought. Hold on. It didn't come back. Oh. The best way to break out of your comfort zones, or to break out of the habit of being who you've been, right? So you're around a lot of people, you've held a certain role amongst those people, is to move, is to relocate. Go to a place where no one knows you, then you can practice being who you want to be. Those people in the new place have no preconceived notions about who you are, so it's easier to be who you are, you know? Whereas the people from before know you from a certain way of being. Okay, now remember, this is just information to reflect on. There's a lot going on here, so if I used examples that aren't specific to you, then, you know, apply it generally, the concepts of what I was saying, you know, to a situation that might be relevant for you. And if there isn't one, then this wouldn't be a reading. But remember, it's just information to reflect on, so only take what is useful to you and leave the rest, and thank you for your participation. Hi, pick 3. You chose the Venus-Pluto conjunct sculpture. You can barely see that there's a Pluto and a Venus on those. And these are hematite beads on here. Okay, so let's start with the Oracle bucket. What is the most helpful information for pick 3 to reflect on at this time? I'm just shuffling really good. I've already done 2 readings, so I'm hoping for a fresh energy. Okay, we got restriction, unique, AC, which is ascendant, progression, new friend, and earth. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to get some tarot cards next before we get some more of those. Who are you being in with regards to this message trying to come through? Someone who's been through heartbreak, but maybe you're leaving it behind and you're ready to start again and open to new connections. Six of Swords. Let me ask to clarify this. This is interesting. I mean, it kind of feels tied to another pile, but it's, you maybe have this situation where you feel a little bit led by those before you, or by ideas that have been laid out in front of you, or maybe that just felt interesting to you, or it could be expectations of others that they may or may not have expressed to you. Could be societal expectations or a specific relationship or parental expectations, but those expectations have put a restriction on who you are, and how you show yourself to the world. And you're actually much more unique than your mask allows you to be seen as. You're a magician. And I think that there's a new friendship. Maybe you've already met this person. Maybe it's something that's going to happen. But, I think this new friend can see things from an opposite view of you or something. Your mask, oh my, oh wow. This person's going to help you take off your mask, and your mask allows you to be a shapeshifter. You kind of fit in with whoever you're, it's kind of like a Libra ascendant, but you don't have to be Libra ascendant. But this energy where you just kind of want to get along, and you don't want to disappoint people. You don't want people to be thinking you're a weirdo. You want to have friendship. The reason why we wouldn't call it charisma is because the real you doesn't care so much about that. About the getting along and what people might feel about how weird you are. And maybe this new friendship allows you to see that, either because they're an example of it, or because whatever they say to you or whatever. But they offer some clarity, someplace where you're confused about something that happened in the past and how it's affecting you today. They're going to help you detach from whatever that imprinted you with. So maybe it was a self-worth thing where you started to value yourself less based on someone else's rejection of you or something. And this new friend, I think, is just gonna have a view that just shows you that was just a part of you that was confused. That's not actually true. So there's this process of reconnecting with yourself on that inner level where you kind of just let that mask fall. That mask is kind of seen as a restriction because it requires you to jump through certain hoops, hold back certain things, to shapeshift. And that takes too much energy. You're doing this very gracefully. This isn't going to be abrupt. You're not going to be in people's faces and saying, well, I can't pretend for you anymore. No. This is just going to be a beautiful shift that happens really naturally, and it's through clearing the karma, which is the repeating energy loops of how you had been handling this particular wounding pattern that had originated from a loss of love earlier on. So if it wasn't like a heartbreak in a relationship, it could have been a loss of a parent. It could have even been just like a disappointing relationship with parents. Right? Where they didn't show up for you on an emotional level or something like that. And when this new friend, I want to kind of take my thoughts away from it being an external person for a moment. Say this new friend is you. Say you start being a new friend to yourself in a way that you hadn't before. In a way that says, look, we don't really need to get their approval or make sure that we're not too weird for them. I got you. like I got my own back, I know I'm okay, even if I'm weird. And if those people don't like my weirdness, I still like it. And maybe there'll be someone else. Maybe maybe their rejection will push me in the direction of that which I prefer. Because this is going to be an easy, kind of graceful transition. So even if they kind of don't jive with your uniqueness, if they feel threatened by it or whatever, I think the company that you're in is polite enough that they would only whisper behind your back. I don't think they would like say it to your face or anything. So maybe you'd just like sense it and then you'd go in this other direction or something. Because I feel like you have a detached view of whatever it all is. Even of your mask. Even of this whole song and dance that's been going on, either between you and others or amongst the others, that you kind of feel like, I don't know if I can fit in there, kind of thing. All right, this is interesting. Your beliefs are right for you. This is one of the advice cards. So just reassuring you that like you're meant to be you, and you can stop catering and being what others need you to be. And I do want to point out that we got magician. Like this is a skill you have. You are an illusionist. You are an actor. You are able to fit in. That is a skill, okay? So you could use that for other things, Follow the golden rule, which is, I believe, do unto others as you'd have done to you, right? So if you didn't feel like you vibed with somebody based on their flavor of uniqueness, you'd probably want to be very polite to that person and let them down easy, right? Just like you'd want done to you, kind of thing. So this isn't a hold a grudge against these people. This isn't anything like that. And maybe it's even an illusion that these people would be not accepting of who you are on an authentic level. It's possible. Choose love over fear. Yeah. That's what would love do? Love would say, it's okay if people misunderstand. It's okay if people don't quite understand. It's okay if it takes them a while to warm up. It's okay if I end up going over here and feeling more comfortable and more accepted. It's okay. Because I love myself. I'm able to look at this as an adventure, as a graceful stroll through possibility and experience. Taking from the experience what serves me and not dishing out anything that's not in the highest good of all. And not attached to an outcome. Like, I don't need them to do anything particular. I don't need them to be excited about this new version of me. I don't need them to even notice, you know? Like, not attached to whatever outcome it is. Just in the space of, like, you know, really connected with who you are so that you can be that. And, like, that doesn't have to be an in-your-face thing. I mean, unless that's who you are. But, like, I feel like it's more of a just, like, this gentle unmasking of self and letting hoops fall that you were willing to jump through before. Let the song and dance go a little bit. I think to people outside of you, it will just look like growth. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Really beautiful. Well, pile 3. It looks like you are just getting to this most authentic version of yourself that will be an example for others of being authentic, of being unique, of being confident enough to be yourself, and being open to love and open to whatever, right? Like, you're going forward in a loving manner. You're going forward without the grudges of the past, without expectations for how people have to be with you. And, you know, you might line up with a new friend, but you might just be the new friend that you need. You might even just see the friends that you had in a new way, in some cases. And this says 12 days and 12 weeks, so those might be significant time periods for this progression that you're going through now. What do I want to clarify? I just got the idea to clarify something. I'm going to clarify new friend, okay? Because that's been the most thing that I've been, like, back and forth on. You were not a match to this friendship before. I think you might meet someone at work or through work, or a lot of people. But because you weren't, it's, this new friendship requires you to be in your integrity. But also, like, this friendship is such in this friend is such in their integrity that they will cause you to be. Yes, they will be an inspiration to you. The new moon might be significant, and 5 weeks might be a significant amount of time for this new friendship to come in, if it hasn't already come in. I mean, I don't know why, but when I got that, I had the sense that it hadn't happened yet, but for some of you it may have. I don't know. But that's just the feeling I got, okay? Well, remember, this is just information to reflect on. Only take what is useful to you, okay? Leave the rest. Thank you for participating. Bye now.